俺が誰か？モンキー D ルフィ。お前を超えて海賊王になる男だ。
The One Piece anime has been catching a lot of flack recently. This is mostly because the pacing, to put it simply, is shit. Episodes spend minutes adapting single pages, and every episode seems to take longer and longer to cover the content that is displayed in a single manga chapter that you can read in 5 minutes. To put it into greater context, the One Piece anime has bad pacing, and this harms the experience for anime-only viewers, in particular, anime-only viewers that watch the show weekly. Some may make the counterpoint that the animation is amazing, and it's still One Piece at the end of the day, and I can understand the line of reasoning. The One Piece story is one of the best I've ever consumed, but there's no doubt that the pacing can be off-putting to any viewer, particularly of the casual variety. But why? What makes pacing so important? Let's talk about that. Back in the good old days of the 1930s, novels were longer, cigarettes were healthier, and people were more passionate about their work. In the aftermath of the Great War, society was pining for something better, something more engaging, less depressing. Many families had lost their boys to the endless horrors of the battlefield. Those that could walk limped home with the flaccid title of hero slapped onto them like a sticker on the back of a cereal box. War was hell, and these boys had been scarred by its flames. One such boy went by the name of J.R.R. Tolkien. Now, I'm sure you've never heard of this guy, he's pretty underground, but he's known for making a few cult classics such as The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. These are both insanely long fucking books, with deep storylines, insane characters, and large sweeping battles. A pacing nightmare for anybody not named J.R.R. Tolkien, but he manages to hold the reader's attention expertly for the majority of his classics. He does this with what I'd like to call the controlled distribution of information. He jumps around between storylines and characters at his heart's desire, creating this feeling of only ever truly knowing what he wants you to. This, of course, is a form of pacing, the speed with which a writer pushes their narrative forward with the aim of making their story more engaging and retaining audience attention. This can be a micro-strategy for some, with some authors only withholding information for a scene or so, while in other stories it's the name of the game, allowing for deeper mysteries as well as more fleshed out characters as you change perspectives or otherwise see their reactions to information we do and don't have. It puts the audience in the world of your story, and it leads to this feeling of engagement in a way that the Fireboy and Water Girl fanfiction on Wattpad just can't compare to. Of course, pacing is more than just skipping around storylines and plot beats, but instead the management of these aspects overall. Generally, for modern authors who aren't trying to make the next Lord of the Rings, I would recommend taking your narratives on a storyline-to-storyline basis. It creates a sense of structure both internally and externally, allowing your reader to settle into your work while you do your magic, as well as gently encouraging you to create a longer project that doesn't have too many things going on at once. Now, I call this form of pacing the arc method, taking inspiration from the way many individual storylines are referred to as arcs by their fanbases and creators. When separating your story into arcs, you have more control over microscopic aspects of your narrative, things that your audience will hype up about your work without attributing it directly to something like pacing. An arc format allows you to develop multiple messages over the course of one narrative without making your narrative feel confused or cluttered, as well as allowing for the development of arc-specific characters, foreshadowing for future plot events, or even the slow, natural progression of your central cast that couldn't be realistically achieved over the course of one storyline alone. This is the method that I personally use in my work, and it's honestly done wonders for my writing. The sense of structure that comes from this method allows me to feel more comfortable writing chapter to chapter, and fills me with a larger sense of accomplishment when completing one narrative arc, rather than finishing a drop-in-the-bucket chapter. This is one of the more common methods of pacing, and honestly, you'd be hard-pressed to find a show, book, or movie that you can't at least mildly separate into arcs or otherwise self-contained storylines. Taking advantage of the serialized nature of writing is important when considering your pacing, because otherwise you're not taking advantage of the medium and your work will feel amateur as a result. Speaking of drop-in-the-bucket chapters, another important aspect of pacing, separating it from the arc method entirely, is the pacing of individual chapters. A complete project is only as good as its smallest pieces, and as such, if your chapters are shit, then people aren't going to care about how good your storyline as a whole is. You can sit on your high horse and complain that nobody understands your real vision, but the idea of anybody being a tortured genius died with the most recent Taylor Swift album. If you're going to write a chapter, make sure that the audience gets something of substance out of it. This goes for anything that you make. A chapter should never be dead air, words for the sake of words. There needs to be something, even if it's something small, an interesting character interaction, the progression of the main plot, or even just some basic world-building opportunities. If you're going to sit down and write a chapter, you're not just asking the reader to read it, but you're also asking yourself to write it. If you don't want to waste your time for upwards of 2 hours, it would benefit you to even be slightly mindful of what you're actually putting on paper. On one hand, it's good to take your time and to let yourself breathe, but on the other hand, as an author, you have a responsibility to give your audience their money's worth, and as such, you have to make sure they are very seldom bored of anything you're putting out. Boredom kills business, after all. On that topic, the idea of filler in writing is ridiculous in its own right. You see it all the time in writing communities. The rather extreme advice of, if it's not 100% essential to moving your plot forward, then get rid of it. It's a silly piece of advice because what is essential to the plot depends entirely on what kind of story you're trying to tell and what kind of environment your story takes place in the first place. When you're constructing a narrative, every chapter, every storyline, and every scene is a building block. It all ultimately contributes to the greater theme and context of your narrative. Your story is more than just a series of plot beats. It's a peek into your mind, your imagination. What many may consider to be filler chapters could be essential to deepening the audience's connection with your characters and your world. That chapter where your main character tries and fails to cook breakfast the night after confessing to the love of his life? That's real. It has impact, even if on paper your story would function just fine without it. Modern writing culture is full of holier-than-thou personalities who think they know more and write better because they bought a copy of On Writing by Stephen King. But what they don't understand is that writing is an art before it is a method, before it is a strategy, before it is anything other than a means of expression. Putting these scenes in your work requires delicacy, there's no doubt about that. But to say that cutting out all of the filler makes your work better is just a complete lie. If there's some downtime in between arcs, and you want to write a chapter about your characters going out to eat and having a good time, if you want to show your characters living in the world you put them in, then go for it. It's not going to kill your pacing or slow your writing to a crawl, but instead it will give your readers time to breathe, and it will allow you as a creator to further experiment with your craft, practice your skills in the middle of your project, and give your work a grounded feeling that entrances readers and keeps them coming back for more. Pacing is important because it is the through line between a writer and a reader. Without good pacing, you will find yourself in situations where everything feels wrong, where you're either going too fast or too slow. Your audience won't understand your voice or won't care to try to understand, and your writing will be off-putting, unenjoyable, and a mental chore to get through. Good pacing is like a radio channel without static, a call between two people with good mics. It is undeniably the thing that can elevate a simple project to an unforgettable experience. I understand it's easy to get excited and to try to throw everything out at once like an elementary schooler at a show and tell, but your reader's connection with you is everything in the world of professional writing. Take your time, respect theirs, and make sure you take full advantage of the medium. My name is John Sage, and thanks for watching. Hi there, it is John once more, fresh off of the editing table. I have just finished editing the video that you are watching right now, and I don't know if you can hear this, but it is pouring cats and fucking dogs outside. It is raining like hell, and it's kind of relaxing, honestly, editing in this weather. First and foremost, I would like to thank you for sticking around to the very end and sitting down and listening to me yap at you for a minute or so, or however long I usually do these sections for. It means a lot, and every second you spend watching this video, every like, every comment, everything helps out like a ton. I talked about this a little bit in my last video, but like kind of improving my own personal routine and fitting all of this shit into my day-to-day life has helped me out like magnificently as far as being productive, as far as doing these things, and as far as getting videos out consistently or otherwise improving my skills at a consistent rate. It's not just about doing it a lot. It is about doing it a lot and doing it well, and that is something that I'm so happy that I was able to realize before it was too late. I have written damn near 10,000 words alone since I started making this video. Like that word count earlier was like what, 84,000 or some shit. My content or my book is now at like about 90,000 and or like close to 94,000, and it feels amazing to say that I was able to make all of that progress in the span of like a week. I would like to thank you for watching this video. It means a lot. This is probably one of my better videos that I've put out so far, simply because I'm using a lot of the techniques that I learned naturally, as well as fitting it in with my own personal editing style. It took me 3 days to edit this. Should have taken 2, but I took a day off for mental health personal reasons. But yeah, overall, I would like to say thank you for watching. I'm excited to get to work on the next one, and have a great rest of your day. My name is John Sage, and peace out.